Welcome to Choose Courage Inc., where we skip the boring intros and jump straight into reimagining business and workplace experiences with We Ain't Afraid to Go There conversations. And for this episode, we're going to skip the sugarcoating and get real about the messy, the uncertain, and liberating journey of rethinking work and creativity. I get the chance to sit with Celenza, who's a software designer, writer, and interview journalist, to dive deep into the power of community, creativity, and reimagining the future of work and life. From festivals to entrepreneurship, from reclaiming imagination to questioning the way we use our time, this conversation is an invitation to step out the mundane and step into something more alive. Expect an unfiltered conversation about the courage to reclaim agency in a world that discourages imagination, why festivals, not conferences, might be the future of innovation, how the passing of time is the only certainty, and why that should push you toward change, how small steps, not perfect plans, build the foundation for bold moves, and why creativity isn't a luxury but a necessity for meaningful connection. So if you've ever felt the pull towards something bigger but found yourself hesitating, consider this your sign to start. The future isn't waiting for perfection. It's built by those willing to take the first step. Let's get into it. I'm noticing that a lot of people are yearning for and wanting to experience something that provides courage for them to then bet on themselves and do something different. And really what I'm understanding is in order for them to experience that more times than not, it tends to be in these moments of community, in these moments of witnessing other people do things that are outside the box or outside the norm. So how does bringing people together in creative, playful ways help us imagine new ways of working, leading, and living?
Yeah, so the past couple of years, I'll give a concrete example. I've been helping to moderate Unfinished Festival, which is a festival in Bucharest, Romania, that my friend helps to direct. And so I've helped with the lineup of it and moderate the interviews and bring people together, right? And think about the variety of that. And through doing more of that kind of festival work, gosh, I mean, you can see it throughout the 3 days of the festival. It starts out with people are a little unsure. What is this, right? And then by the end of the 3 days, you see people just alive, right? I mean, you start to see it even
Mm,
before then, but it's a gradual aliveness that happens. And so I think that it really helps us understand that we have the capacity and the permission and the agency to imagine. It takes courage right now to reclaim our agency.
mm,
It takes courage to figure out how to reclaim our agency. And I think community is a way, and I'm using the festival example as a way to engage with that question. I also say the word permission here. Bringing people together in creative, playful ways gives us permission to even ask that question. In a lot of workplaces right now, in corporate America, it's both implicitly and explicitly, employees are not allowed to imagine,
mm,
We're trying to move fast here, so your ideas are slowing us down. Or that idea has been tried before, it didn't work. Or no, we want you to work on this. Nope, you're going to be reorged here. Or ChatGPT is going to do the imagination for you. So given this bleak reality that we live in, this is what people are being told every day across the US and the world, right? In their workplaces. And so given that reality, I think that bringing people together in creative, playful ways, festivals can reactivate our imagination much more than I think conferences can, or the current
mm,
state of where we've taken conferences. And that's good news. I think it doesn't take a lot to reactivate that imagination. We all, I think, are yearning for it. We're yearning for reclaiming our agency. We're yearning to be courageous. So that's good news, right? That means that we can reactivate it pretty quickly. But you know, we have to consider how we want to structure our communities, so that we can bring forth those creative, playful ways and have that permission,
mhm.
right? So I think it's more than just thinking about ourselves and how we personally want to be courageous, but also how we want to help other people be
Mhm.
courageous too. And that's
Yeah.
huge. I think that is a profound idea right now and can make a lot of impact.
Yeah, because play invites curiosity. It lowers defenses and it can make room for experimentation when we're not fixated on getting it right and perfect. And it's about just honestly just giving ourselves permission to explore what could be. I think that's why I really love this idea of festivals that you keep bringing up is festivals are really just this idea of space, right? For you to experience yourself and other people in new and in different ways and to be okay with it. And it's okay if it doesn't make sense, right, to other people, but at least you have the space to kind of show up in ways that maybe other environments that you're in wouldn't allow you to be. I keep thinking about moon pause. It's a little weird and quirky of building this astrology for pets app, but it's been so much fun. And I'm meeting so many different people across so many different industries as well. I'm learning a lot about the pet industry and the pet space, which is just ripe for disruption, by the way. And when I mean
Mm.
disruption, I mean it's ripe for people learning how to have fun and creative in new ways. It's very stale, at least my insight at the moment.
And
So,
I'm looking to learn more about my Pisces dog and Gemini dog, right? And how they
yeah,
work
yeah. So
together.
it's fun, but honestly, I think what I've been loving about it so much is, especially we've done a couple live reading events, is I just love seeing people so happy as they talk about their dog. They're so happy. I did a survey on LinkedIn just asking people, to my cat owners, what are 3 words that you would use to describe your cat? And I had this form where, they could add their 3 words, and I just had this space. It was optional, they didn't have to fill it out, and it said, "Is there anything else you wanna share with us?" And people again, keep in mind, I didn't collect anyone's name or email addresses. I can't even reach back out to these people. But people were gushing about their cat in this optional section that I'm not even gonna be able to respond to them on, right? But they're just so happy to talk about their pet. And I feel like that's what I've been craving these days. And really, the reason why I'm able to experience that is because of this kind of renewed relationship with creativity, especially in shared spaces, and especially when it's sparking connection, right? And so, yeah, it's just been nice to build something, experience something where I'm like, wow, I don't have to do things in the ways that other people expect me to. There's so much freedom in that.
Yeah, I love that cat example too, because it shows that, our joy and creativity is not completely lost. It's there. It's there. It's still right there bubbling up, but we have to find the
Yeah.
courage right now, especially we have to find the courage to reactivate it, to reclaim it, to bring it out. That's
Yeah.
the piece that, yeah, is the difficult part of it. But the good news is that it's still there. And imagination and creativity is the very thing that makes us human. Yes, an
Hmm.
AI can come up with cool ideas too, but AI is not having and will never have a human experience. And our human experience, that baseline of reality, of living, of experiencing life, both the good and the bad parts of it, that's what fuels our imagination. You can't have imagination without a baseline of reality. So that it gives me a lot of hope.
Mm-hmm. Hmm. Yeah. And so even now we've been thinking about how can we pull people out from these moments of mundane just life into something joyful, moon pause. Or actually, we're making these oracle card decks for pet owners. So even one of the ideas that we have is we have this video of we're creating these oracle card decks for pet owners, and we have this video of this dog playing with these oracle cards, right, and doing readings. And I told my team, let's run ads on LinkedIn, just being like, your
Disrupt
dog wants
LinkedIn.
you to look at these oracle cards. I was like, let's just like pull people out of the trash fire that's LinkedIn and get them to think about their dog.
I was gonna say I'd rather see that than love the trash fire that's LinkedIn right now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because I told my team, especially in light of just the state of the country, the world, I I came to them after the inauguration, and I am even more driven, focused for us to be a moment of joy for people, regardless of where people are falling politically. everyone it's bad. Everyone's struggling in their own ways, right? And so I'm even more convicted and convinced that we just have to be so thoughtful in being this moment of joy for people. So how can we
Hmm.
be creative in doing that? And how can we
Right.
have fun while doing that? And that's dope. And that is so much fun, especially when you're able to be creative without seeking someone else's permission to be
Hmm.
creative.
Hmm. That's the entrepreneurial spirit coming out.
Ugh,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah,
a big vibe.
it
Yeah.
is.
I guess what advice then? Because I imagine as people are listening to this, people might be feeling stuck in their current situation or they're kind of unsure or stuck in what to do next. What advice would you give to someone who knows that they need to make a change, right? They're listening to this, or maybe they've been pondering on this for a while. I know something needs to be different because this ain't it. What advice would you give to someone who knows that they need a change, but they feel trapped or stuck by uncertainty?
Yeah, uncertainty can be absolutely debilitating. I go back to two things. One is take a look at your situation and going back to like there's privilege in the tension. Is there a privilege actually that an opportunity that's being offered to you in that tension that could reframe the way in which you sort of approach it? The second thing though, and this is a little maybe morbid, but I think about death. Like the one certainty of life is the passing of time.
Yeah, death and taxes are the
Yeah.
certainties of life.
Yeah. How we file taxes is a little uncertain right now in the US, but anyway, so death is that is certain. That and I don't, it doesn't have to be this bleak morbid thing. It's actually can be an anchor that you say, okay, I know that time is passing. I can't change that. That's for certain. So why not now? Why not try something different now? Because we know that we don't want to reach an older age where we look back on our life and say, oh man, I wish that at age whatever, or at this time in my life that I would have made a different decision or that I would have tried. We know that to be true. We've heard that from so many humans who have lived through that already, so many
Mhm.
generations who have lived through that. And we should listen to that, right? And we should learn from that. And I think so. I sort of think about that when I'm feeling the fear, when I'm feeling the kind of paralyzed state. I go back to, but is there an opportunity or privilege in this that I shouldn't waste? And there's the certainty of time passing that I need to be reminded of. Then the next step is how can you start small? Don't feel like you've got to boil the ocean, so to speak. And
Mhm.
so I start small by, it could be going back to the calendar analogy of making the time, right, in space and putting it in your calendar. But also think about maybe one or two people in your life that you feel could be very supportive in sharing this with. Again, doesn't have to be a lot of people. You should be strategic about who you share with, but that just allowing that to sort of be said out in the world and maybe having people hold you accountable or check in with you on it or, be your cheerleaders or whatever, that can go a long way to feeling this is real. Because in a lot of times when you're going through a transition or you're yearning for something more, there's moments where it doesn't feel real, and you kind of need something else to help remind you that you're doing it, and
Mhm.
and you're going through it and you're making milestones, whether it feels bad or not. So start with the baby steps, make it visible, make it known in the ways that feel supportive for you. And then that can lead to bigger moves,
Mhm.
right? And this is where I go back to how you are disciplined with time. So at the end of every quarter, I'll look at the next quarter and I'll say, okay, I made these baby steps this last quarter. So this next quarter, what are the toddler steps I could take on this goal or the teenagers, and so you kind of make bigger steps along the way as you get more courage.
Mhm.
And, courage is a thing that takes time sometimes to build. It doesn't have to be something, and usually it's not something that you immediately feel. It takes time to build it, and building that process into your life can be very meaningful.
Yeah. Yeah, and I appreciate the call out that you made earlier as well of just reminding yourselves and being aware that all this comes to an end, that life is really short and therefore it's really precious. I've been reading this book called Tuesdays with Maury. It's by Mitch Albom, and it's essentially about him sharing his experience with one of his college professors in the last days of his life. His professor has ALS. And it's just kind of reflecting on some of the absurdities that we kind of just cling on to so tightly and, on the short side of forever. And I think, I've had my own near death experiences, which is why I feel I move the way that I do. I'm okay taking risks and betting on myself or choosing things that are in alignment with my value because I think about how short life is.
Hmm.
Because I know that 20, 30 years from now, no one's going to even be thinking about this one moment that I'm
Right.
freaking out about.
Right.
I'm on this big rock floating in space paying bills and I'm afraid. For what? So I think that's always helped me to kind of reground myself. But yeah, yeah, change is hard.
It's really
Change
hard.
is hard. And it's
Yeah.
not because you don't want it, but because uncertainty makes and can make our brain kind of spiral into a thousand what ifs. What if I fail? What if no one believes in me? What if I end up being unemployed forever? What if, what if, what if? And most of which are honestly unhelpful. And it's just causing you to spin on something that you don't even know is true or a fact. And I think that's why things like hope and faith are also really important.
Hmm.
Similar things, right? Hope and faith in something, I don't know that that's going to come into fruition. In the same way, if I'm relating to something from a place of anxiety and fear, I don't know that's going to happen.
Hmm.
So it's a choice of which one you want to choose to lock into. So for me, what that does is it invites a mindset shift. And a mindset shift that has really helped me move forward in those moments of being and feeling stuck is understanding that clarity is a byproduct of action, not a prerequisite for it.
Hmm.
I don't need a 5-year plan. I don't need a 2-year plan. All I need in this very moment is just a step.
Hmm.
And that step, it doesn't have to be, to your point, Lauren, big or dramatic or even right, but it does need to be movement that's taking me forward. So I've been encouraging myself to even reflect on this question of what's the tiniest move? What's the tiniest next move I can make that aligns with the direction that I think I want to go? This is a trusting your gut exercise.
Hmm.
A lot of us don't know or haven't trusted our gut in a long time. Here's an invitation to do that. What's the tiniest next move that you can make that aligns with the direction that you think you want to go? And maybe that's sending an email. Maybe that's saying something out loud for the first time, even if you're in your room by yourself. Maybe it's Googling, how do I even start? Whatever it is. And whatever it is, whatever that tiny step is, just do that. Just do that. And then maybe later on, maybe do the next thing after that. And it's just a bunch of little steps I think starts to build on each other. Because I know that for some of y'all, you might need to hear this, that making a change doesn't mean you have to have all the answers. I think people say things like, oh, it's perfectionism, which honestly, I think perfectionism is really just self sabotage through fear. Perfectionism sounds nice though,
Mm-hmm.
because it's
Yep.
like, why? It's because I am caring about this thing. It's very precious. But no, it's just self sabotage through fear. That's perfectionism.
Yeah.
So you don't need to have all the right answers. You really just need to be willing to bet on yourself in one small way.
Yeah. Yeah. You won't have the answers. You
Mm-mm.
won't. There's no way, especially if you're taking a step into something you've never done before or it's unfamiliar. You're absolutely not going to have all the answers. And I
Yeah.
love that point about it's okay to not have a 2-year plan or a 5-year plan.
Yes.
I think we actually have to break that because that sort of sets us up for failure. There's so much change that's happening right now. I think we do have to be a bit flexible, disciplined and flexible at the same time and be willing to change based on kind of
Yeah.
what's going on. Yeah.
I think my I'll offer a small pushback.
Go for it.
And I think it's important to have vision,
Yes.
and
Yes.
for and vision, right, can be a 3, 5, 10-year thing. But I think it's how do you hold that loosely? How
Mhm.
do you hold it, but hold it loosely, right? So oftentimes within my teams, I have a bunch of different sayings because I'm a quote person, whatever. But I'll often tell and remind my team to stay focused and protect the vision. So if I'm staying focused and protecting the vision, that might mean I can now be flexible in all these different ways, so long as I'm moving towards that North Star that I have.
Yeah.
I have very specific visions for Moon Pause. I have very specific visions for how I want to help people this year. I have very specific visions for how can humanity centered do more and make more in revenue so that we can give more away. Last year, we took 4 months of mandatory time off intentionally because I knew 2025 was going to be a lot, regardless of who won this election. And in doing so, I even challenged our team. I still want us to do really well this year so we can give more away. We were able to do over 70K in micro business loans to people who are struggling. We're able to give
It's
over
amazing.
50K in terms of donations. So, or to nonprofits. But if I have that vision and that determination to really help and have that impact, I have to stay focused, which means
Yeah.
I do have to keep the larger picture in mind as I'm moving towards that.
Yeah, totally. I think we're saying the same thing. Be flexible, have a vision, and you can be flexible with what that vision is. It doesn't have to follow the dogma of like,
Mm.
use the OKR framework, right? Or it
Oh my
has to be
gosh,
5
triggered.
years. Right? Yeah. You can do it the way that you want to do it.
Yeah. We should have beeped that out. Use the beep framework.
Yeah. Yeah, please do. That's hilarious. But there's people
Yeah.
that, I think would maybe feel free hearing that, hopefully. So,
Yeah. Yeah. And I feel too, even with entrepreneurship, I tell folks who are on the fence of it, as long as you know how to figure things out and Google stuff, it's like 90% of entrepreneurship.
yeah,
You're just
yeah.
learning as you're
Yeah.
going.
Yeah, and I think most of the people that maybe you believe are successful in some way probably don't know what they're doing to some degree.
For sure.
Right. Right? So,
Yes. I'm looking at myself in the mirror.
yeah, you're safe. Right? I mean, that's yeah. Don't self-sabotage and think that you have to have all the answers.
Mhm. Yeah. And I hope that frees someone today of you don't need to have all the answers. And life is continuously changing and moving. So you're probably gonna have to pivot anyways. And I think entrepreneurship and honestly life is about the pivot. If you know how to pivot more quickly without lingering in the disappointment and discouragement and the what ifs, you're good. You're in a good place. And the pivots don't have to be huge, but you got to pivot out of it so you're not building a home there. And I've met a lot of people who their dreams, their hopes, their desires get lost because they built a home in grief or they built a home in the what ifs or they built a home in despair and they just live there. And I know those people are going to get to the end of their life and be like, "Wow, why didn't I even just try?" So, it's okay to
Mhm.
try.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. I think especially when I just want to reiterate this, I think it's really important, especially when we're feeling paralyzed by uncertainty. It is
Mhm.
helpful, I think, to anchor onto something that is certain and not
Mhm.
the passing of time, And I think that we just listening to people who have gone down that path before can be such valuable information. And we have the privilege to take that information out and do something different, right?
Mhm. Mhm. Absolutely. So, just kind of wrap up our time. If you could paint a vision of the future, what does a world built on creativity, on the essence of what festivals are, and honestly, just real, genuine connection? What does that world look like if it's built on those things?
I love this question. And I would love to see a world where that question is asked more often instead of staying in the trauma bond space,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
This is a great example of how we can start to get out of that space is by asking questions like this. So, what does a world built on creativity festivals and real connection look like? I think it's no more obsession with trying to solve the future, but rather honoring and learning from the past, from the many people throughout history who have found joy in the catastrophe, who have successfully navigated through it, who there's so much history that we can learn from that can actually be a map for us. And I would love for us to respect that and honor it. It's less conferences and more festivals, right? It's multidisciplinary spaces, not just one sector, but multidisciplinary. Variety of forms of inspiration. It's multisensory. You can hear it, you can smell it, you can taste it, you can dance through it, you can move through it. It's alive. It's not screen bound. It's making meaningful connections and new friends, that people that you actually meet at a space, that you remember them. They've helped you in some way, you've helped them in some way, as opposed to just an exchange of contact information, right? We're actually making meaningful relationships from those spaces. It's younger generations listening to older generations and older generations listening to younger generations and having more dialogue between those two. It's people working together and not alone, or, sitting in kind of the silent burnout or the silent frustration, that we're actually talking and not necessarily trauma bonding, but actually asking this question of what we want to see, right, in the future too. And then it's going back to time. It's 4-day work weeks. It's some sort of structured time off. And we are now reallocating that time to either apply our creativity in other ways, volunteer in our community. If we're parents, we're spending more time with our children. If we're, entrepreneurs, we're looking at different ways of being in that space, right? We're reallocating our time collectively. And we can do that. Yes, time is certain in the sense that it's passing, but we can also change it. We can change how we're engaging with it. And I think sometimes we forget about that, but we got to do that collectively for it to really work. I still have hope that that's a possibility. And so those are the things that I see. And I think they're already happening, right, in pockets. And I think this is a time for us to venture out, to feel a little discomfort, to look at where these pockets are occurring, to see what people are experimenting with, to learn from them, to ask those questions. And then that helps us get out of that trauma bonding space and start to create that future that we want to see.
Yeah. A couple of thoughts on some things that you said is, one, and this might be a controversial thought. It's in alignment with you, but I think it would be a good thing for a lot of conferences, specifically UX conferences, because that's my experience, to just fail. I think we just need a reset.
Yeah.
And I know that's a tough, pessimistic potential place to go, but imagine if the new bar was creating something with the essence of a festival, where it does actually create space for curiosity, sharing, and not just the elevation of brands or the continuous fight uphill for relevancy over maturity or the look at me, look at me. What if we just what if instead of these one to many moments, we focused on these many to many moments in terms of people and connection? So honestly, I remember reading an article you know, about how a bunch of UX conferences are going away. And I'm like, I think that's okay. I think that just means we should stop white knuckling the past and be more curious about the future. So yeah, that definitely resonates. And I think too, something else that you were speaking into is time and how time is always passing. But I know for me, I've been thinking through, how do I add more speed bumps to my life?
I love that.
Because life is just going, right? And I remember reading somewhere that as you get older, it feels like time goes by more quickly because you're not being exposed to as many new things and experiences. You're not being exposed to as many more new things, right? Whereas as you're younger, you're experiencing and taking in a lot of new. And so I've been thinking about, how do I add more speed bumps to my life? I don't want to wake up when I'm older and be like, wow, where did the last 30 years go?
That is
Because
the risk we're kind of at. Not to be too grim, but that is the risk we're facing collectively.
yeah, I mean, I think it's a risk a lot of people are experiencing personally, even regardless of politically or not, of how do we, and again, it's more of like a call and encouragement to take ownership and assessment of how you're living your life. Are you going through the motions, doing what other people expect you to do, and yet you just feel like you're dead on the inside? Or and are longing for something more and different. And so there's space to do that and to accept that and to lean into it. If you are tempted to hear some of these things, especially when Lauren is like, you're listing all of these incredible things of what would the world look like? What could the world look like? If you're hearing those things and your first response is, yeah, but, or you just like throw out, yeah, privilege or yeah, white supremacy, whatever, just think bigger, dream bigger. Just be open and more creative about what is actually possible versus shooting it down. That kind of response, it comes from a place of survival. I get it. I've
Mhm.
been there. I yo-yo there still, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
But we can choose to not just default into shooting good things and possibility down. It's a discipline and a practice, but it's one that has to start with ourselves.
100%.
Yeah. Yeah. I love the ideas you're sharing. When I'm kind of thinking about the world built on creativity, festivals, and real connection, for me, what comes to mind is it's a place where people don't have to contort themselves to fit in,
Mm.
where
Mm.
creativity isn't treated like a side hobby or, oh, you're creative,
Right.
but instead it's treated as the actual way that we build, solve problems, and exist together. It's understood that we all have this within ourselves. And there are environments then that are built, spaces that are built to help us individually cultivate that in whatever way resonates with us. And I think that's why that essence of festival is so important. And I
Mhm.
really love that you've brought that up because it's really challenging, even how I'm thinking about some of my client work. But you know, when you're able to understand the essence of what a festival is, you understand that it's this space where joy isn't scheduled and connection isn't scheduled. It's just movement, it's art, it's music, it's just everywhere.
It's
And you can
movement.
choose to tap in or tap out as you
Mhm.
please,
Mhm.
right? People are not gathered just to be entertained or talked to, but they're gathering to actually like be with each other in a way that actually means something, which is why I love that as like the antidote potentially, right? For trauma bonding.
Yes.
You're talking about trauma bonding as really bonding over the thing that's causing harm and pain and suffering versus actually bonding with each other. And the essence of a festival, right, is people are gathered just to be with each other in a way that actually means something and that reminds each other of our humanness and our nature, right? It's not a transactional kind of connection. It's not small talk or networking for the sake of getting ahead, but it's eye contact that lingers. It's conversations that don't rush to a point. It's relationships that are actually built on curiosity and trust and the shared understanding that we're all just freaking figuring it all out as we go.
Mhm.
And really, when I think about this world and what that could look like, it's really just a world where people are alive and they're not just existing. They're not just checking off the next thing, but they're actually alive. That's the world that I want to build.
Yeah. Me too. I was just thinking actually of kind of a weird analogy. This made me think of the scene as a kid of The Grinch, where at the end of The Grinch, right, he steals hordes from this neighborhood. And at the end of the story, the neighborhood is coming together in this festival of song around the tree. And the Grinch, his heart grows, right? Or whatever. And I think why that's coming up for me, that image of what I saw as a kid, is I remember seeing that as a kid and being, oh wow, seems really miserable actually to be the person who's hoarding a bunch of power and all of these things. And it actually how amazing it would be, or what the antithesis of that is to show that there is an aliveness and celebration and community, right? And so I'm bringing that analogy up of like I actually think yes, we should continue to protest and resist and have those spaces as well. But having festivals and celebrations and joy not only brings an aliveness out in ourselves, but it can also be a mechanism for disarming the tendency for us to take the path of the hoarding and the road that's more individualistic as opposed to this collective vision that actually has more joy in it. Why would you want to choose misery, right, when joy's right there? And that can disarm it. I don't know if I'm articulating this right or not.
I'm tracking. That's good. That's good.
Yeah, yeah. And I think we forget that sometimes. Or we think that protest is the only mechanism. It's a very powerful one, but we should also look at our toolbox here, all the different things we've got, and which one do we use at the right time. And festivals is something in our toolbox that can disarm the misery of what's going on in these spaces.
Yeah. I mean, this conversation, because I know Ming, you were kind of like for this a couple weeks ago, but inspired me in terms of, festivals are just these spaces of connection and just curiosity, joy, fun, what have you. And so, as the world feels like it's burning around me, I'm taking my nephews to medieval times next weekend. First of all, I'm
Yes.
surprised that they even survived the pandemic. So good for y'all. But let's go to medieval times. Let's be with other people who are we're collecting together just to experience something together and have fun.
I love that. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Disarm the misery, bring
Yeah.
bring the sense of aliveness and joy and celebration. And yes, I'm here
Love
for
it.
it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for just extending just your time and energy. I appreciate you and just the gems of wisdom that you shared with us. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. It's always a delight to talk with you, Vivian. So
I love it. Thanks for hanging out with us and diving into some of these real and unfiltered conversations. We know your time is valuable, and so we don't take it for granted. If today's episode made you think, if it challenged you, or gave you something new to consider, we'd love for you to hit that follow button on whatever streaming service you're using. That way, you'll never miss an episode when we drop them. And if you want to go even deeper, sign up for our newsletter at choosecourageinc.com, and you'll get updates on new episodes, access to exclusive freebies, and first dibs on coaching opportunities and other resources to help you make bold moves in your life and business. So we appreciate you, we see you, and we're rooting for you. Until next time, keep choosing courage over comfort, and a friendly reminder to drink some water.